do number 14, happiness. Whenever I wake up.
Whenever I wake up, I feel happy. Aware of my eyes, I feel happy. Aware of my health, I feel happy. Because I have learned to look deeply. Whenever I walk, I feel happy. Whenever I sit, I feel happy. Whenever I rest, I feel happy. Because I have learned to look deeply.
One more time? Let's do it one more time. And when we do it this time, I gotta see everybody smile. If you're sitting there like, and if you could do the hand movements with us as well.
Whenever I wake up, I feel happy. Aware of my eyes, I feel happy. Aware of my health, I feel happy. Because I have learned to look deeply. Whenever I walk, I feel happy. Whenever I sit, I feel happy. Whenever I rest, I feel happy. Because I have learned to look deeply.
Let's do it one more time. One more time.
Whenever I wake up, I feel happy. Aware of my eyes, I feel happy. Aware of my health, I feel happy.
Why?
Because I have learned to look deeply. Whenever I walk, I feel happy. Whenever I sit, I feel happy. Whenever I rest, I feel happy. Because I have learned to look deeply.
There we go. Let's do simple things. Number 5. We're going to go with the Deer Park Classic. Okay.
I get my joy from the simple things coming from the earth. I get my joy from the sun that shines and the water speaks to me. Listen to the wind and listen to the water. Hear what they say. Singing hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey.
I want to hear you.
Singing hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey.
One more time.
I get my joy from the simple things coming from the earth. I get my joy from the sun that shines and the water speaks to me. Listen to the wind and listen to the water. Hear what they say. Singing hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey. Singing hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey.
We're going to do number 5. Or, no, we just did number 5. That's number 6. We're all moving. We have a request. One more time. We are out of time. I'm very sorry. But thank you all for singing with us. So we'd now like to invite the brothers and the sisters to come up and chant with us. Thank you, everyone.
Contemplation before chanting. The Sangha is invited to go back to our breathing, so that our collective energy of mindfulness will bring us together as an organism, flowing as a river, with no more separation. Let the whole Sangha breathe as one body, chant as one body, listen as one body, transcending the boundaries of a delusive self, liberating ourselves from the superiority complex, the inferiority complex, and the equality complex.
From the depths of understanding,
Can you hear me? So let's we can sit up beautifully, relax our body. You can imagine you have a strong back and a soft front, so that the air, the breath can come in and out like the waves on the surface of the ocean very naturally. And as we begin this morning, we could just close our eyes for a moment. Be aware of our breathing. And just reflect for a moment on all those who died in the past 48 hours in Morocco. It's been a terrible earthquake. And many people crushed alive in the buildings. Many emergency workers keeping calm, finding a way to help people get out of the buildings, get medical care, knowing that some will never be found. Some husbands, some wives, some children, some grandparents. And just send our compassion to all those who suffer. We know when people die anywhere in the world, when people are suffering, we also are dying. Some part of us also dies. Some part of us also suffers the loss. So as we listen to 3 sounds of the bell, we just hold those suffering now in our hearts and wish them peace and healing. So, good morning, dear respected Thai, dear noble community, dear community of Bodhisattva healthcare heroes. So, the team organizing this retreat asked me to give the talk today, and I reflected on what my sisters shared earlier this week and what we learned in the the talk show, the Q&A. I took many notes because I'm also learning, and I think that's the beauty of our path as a monastic. We get to learn our whole life. We don't ever stop learning. And because we don't have to worry about food or healthcare or a place to sleep. So the Buddha created this opportunity for us to be able to practice listening deeply, so we can understand the suffering of others. And it turns out that's not separate from our own suffering. So we also get the benefit of understanding what's going on in our own ill-being as well, and learning how to transform it. And so I feel actually this week quite humbled by all of you. I feel that healthcare work is one of the most important things that we can do as a human being. But I want to start with a question that I have myself, which is, what is health? What is health? Because we are health care workers, we feel, of course we know what health is. Why is the monk asking that question? What would be the meaning of my job if I didn't know what health is? But one of the phrases you may have come across that Thai offered to us is to ask the question, are you sure? Especially you ask that question when you're very sure. That's the most important time to ask, are you sure? Because that are you sure question, it opens up a space in our heart. When we are sure about something, there's a closure. We feel we know it. And that closing is actually the end of understanding. So asking ourselves, are you sure, is very helpful to keep our heart open all the time. Always ready to receive new information, new data, new possibilities. So I've been asking myself this question for quite a while, but especially in the past year. As one of our friends shared this morning, we participated in opening a new center for mindfulness and public health in our teacher's name. It's called the Thich Nhat Hanh Center for Mindfulness in Public Health at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Ooh, that's a mouthful. There's a lot of health in there. And so I'm asking myself, what is public health? What is private health? To understand public health, we need to assume we understand what is private health. And in the teaching that we learned about interbeing, we know that we cannot be by ourselves alone. So when we ask what is private health, we know that private health is connected to the collective health, that we cannot separate the two. And I think that's very real. That's a daily lived experience for all of us who work in healthcare. We know we cannot separate the private from the public. Of course, we learn to maintain privacy in our relationship with our patients, with our clients. But we know that their suffering is connected to our suffering. And so when I listen to our friends sharing about the deep ingrained prejudice in the healthcare system, the kind of brokenness of the system, then I ask myself, what is this health that is broken in the system? And can a system produce health? That's another kind of question. That's very interesting. Can a system produce health? The Buddha was asking himself this question. And as a young person, when I encountered suffering, going out in the world and working after college, and asking myself, what is my path? I also asked myself, what does it mean to be a healthy person? Like, what does it mean to be maybe not the best person, maybe not number one in anything, but just to be a healthy person on this planet, a person who embodies well-being, which is another kind of word. What is well-being? Because I studied literature in college, English literature, and I ended up quite cynical by the end of college. I had to be critical about everything, hypercritical, and question everything. And you kind of get to this point where you don't even care who wrote the words on the paper, or ask yourself, who is the author? It's just your relationship with the text. Right? It's kind of postmodern, kind of criticism of the experience of literature. But I found myself in a very dark place. And I even thought, why do I need to be happy? I actually had that thought. Everybody wants to be happy. Why do I have to be happy? Not because I wanted to be unhappy, although I felt, there's a lot of artists, they seem very unhappy. So maybe if I make myself unhappy, I can be a good artist. Anyone ever have that thought? But there's something very interesting there. I remember writing a poem where I actually, before I knew very much about Buddhism or the practice, where I actually saw suffering as a source of creativity. But when we make ourselves suffer, then that's the problem. Then we may create a problem for ourselves and also for other people. So after going down that road and finding a few dead ends, I somehow, fortunately, met this practice of mindfulness. And then I started to experience what I would call health or well-being. It means a sense of balance in the body and mind. In the Buddhist tradition, we talk about these 5 aspects of our being, right? The body, feelings, perception, mental formations like anger, fear, or happiness. Mindfulness is the mental formation, and consciousness. And we're invited to, by our teacher Tai, to see those aspects of our being, this body, feelings, perceptions, mental formation, consciousness, as a sangha, as a community. and to find out how to bring that community into harmony. There's a line in the song, the Sangha is my 5 skandhas, working in harmony. So the Sangha, the community, is my 5 skandhas, these 5 aspects, working in harmony. And I found that very revolutionary. A very transformative teaching from Thai. That by actually bringing harmony to my body and mind, I'm creating harmony around me as well. So when in our practice, when we talk about health, it also includes harmony. So we have some terms: balance, harmony, anyone want to offer another word for health? Presence. Presence. Wonderful. So we teach the children to be fresh like a flower. I often have told the children in the children's program in Plum Village, the greatest gift you can give your parents when they come home after a long day of work, they open the door and they just see your beaming face, smiling like a flower. That is the greatest gift. You don't have to make something, a gift for your mom and dad. Sometimes you don't even have to thank them. You just smile like a flower. That is such a great gift. Is it true? Isn't that the greatest gift? If you come home from a day of work and your children are there, instead of like, so we would do a role-playing exercise where this man would come home from work and he's got or it could be a woman. Anyway, they come home and they come in the door and their children are playing video games. They don't even look up. And right away their partner says, did you stop at the store to get what I asked you to get? Oh my God. And so he feels, or she feels so, because I usually play that role, so I say he. It's not to say, it could be he or she, or them. So, and I would come in to the space, and then I would say, oh gosh, I have no happiness. Even I come home, I work all day to support the family, and I come home, and then my kids don't even look at me. And my partner just reminds me of things that I forgot to do. And so then, he goes and he walks outside into the garden, and he sees some flowers in the garden. And he remembers the practice, flower fresh. And he sees the flowers, they don't ask anything. They just present their beauty, their fragrance to the world. And it's impermanent. It's only a short time that flower will offer its freshness. So I have to learn how to receive. I'm up here giving the Dharma talk, but actually you're doing most of the work if you really want transformation. Because if we don't make ourselves able to receive what is on offer, then transformation can't really take place. It doesn't take place. So a lot of what we train in a retreat is how to receive the Dharma, so that it can go deeply. We say it's like we're the earth receiving the rain. If there's plastic covering the earth, the rain just pools up in puddles on the plastic. And all the seeds that are there in the earth, in the deep levels of our consciousness, cannot be touched by the rain. So they're not conditions for them to come up. Seeds like compassion or understanding. So a lot of what we do, so a Dhamma talk is not a one-way thing. I'm not up here to make a presentation. We're experiencing a collective meditation. We're going into the Dhamma, And so we also have to learn to be receptive. So that man looking at the flower, he learns from the flower how to be able to receive the flower's beauty. The beauty is the flower is instructing him. So presence is that quality. When we're truly present, then we're able to receive. It means we're not caught in our thinking or our perceptions. So maybe we can listen to a sound of the bell and just practice presence for a moment as one of the qualities of health. Breathing in, I see myself as a flower. Breathing out, I feel fresh as a flower. Flower, fresh. Okay, you can open your eyes. So how many of us feel more fresh? I do. I get a break from the Dharma talk. That's the first practice of guided meditation for children we call pebble meditation. So we practice with the little pebbles. I didn't come prepared to teach pebble meditation, so I didn't bring any pebbles, but we have the children go around and pick 4 pebbles, one for the flower, one for, anyone know the second one? Mountain, right. And the quality is solidity. So I'd say that's another quality of health, is solidity. It's related to balance. It means we are not easily blown over by the storm of our emotions. So when anger, frustration, or irritation is there, we are like the mountain, even in a violent storm. The tornado may rip the trees right out of the side of the mountain, but the mountain still remains solid. And we actually have that kind of solidity inside of us if we know how to touch it. So doing the meditation on mountain solid, for example, we may come back to our bones. I practice that. Sometimes it's so turbid in here. I actually go back to my skeleton because it's very solid there. It's not very, up and down and mixed up. So the children practice to hold the pebble, breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. Maybe we practice it now. Breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. Breathing out, I feel solid. Anger comes, jealousy comes, fear comes, anxiety, but I remain solid, not swayed by the anger. In, mountain, out, solid. So we have presence, solidity, harmony. It's related to the next pebble. Anyone know the next pebble in pebble meditation? Water, right? And but what kind of water? Still water, calm water. And in the calm water, we can see our reflection, right? That's a quality. So when you look into a clear mountain lake, you see the clouds, the blue sky, maybe some birds flying, some trees. So when our mind is calm, in harmony, then we're able to see clearly what's going on there. We can see that anger is there, for example. So it's very helpful to be able to see anger in its seed form. There's a potentiality for anger in each one of us. And if our mind is calm, when that seed gets touched and it starts to come up, you see it right away. And you know how to take care of that anger. Embrace it with the energy of mindfulness, like we've already learned to do. But if our mind is very agitated, if we are thinking a lot of thoughts, we have a lot of projects, a lot of worries, or maybe we are, watching television or caught up in the news, whatever it may be, and our mind is not stable, then when the seed of anger manifests, we don't catch it, we don't recognize it, and it can take over our mind before we know it. We're so caught up in what we're doing, we don't realize that anger now has become like a big block. It's muscled its way into every aspect of our mind consciousness. And now it's not easy to make it go back down into its seed form. And that is when we live in forgetfulness. So what we do here in the retreat is to help us to keep this clear mind as long as possible throughout the day. With clarity and presence, then we recognize what's coming up and we take care of it right away. So as healthcare workers, we have the right to go to the bathroom and take care of our anger. You go to the bathroom to take care of your, when you need to defecate or urinate. So you also have the right, instead of spewing out your anger on your patients, on your colleagues, you have the right to transform it first. Transform it before you defecate with the mouth, defecation of the mouth, right? When we don't take care of our mental formations, it's like a defecation of our mouth. Actually, it's even worse, I think. I mean, poop is not angry. It's unpleasant to smell, but it's not it doesn't leave these kind of lasting effects that our angry words do have on others that can last for years and years. We don't know how to begin anew with that person. So we have the right as workers, we can step out. So in the 4th mindfulness trainings that we listened to yesterday, we say when anger manifests, we know how to stop whatever we're doing. If we need to go out, do walking meditation, then do that. You have that right. You'll have time later to explain to others why you needed to do that. But it's better to take care of our anger than to just engage in defecation of the mouth. Actually, when you look in evolution, early on we only had one opening. So you had to do both. You had to eat and poop. It's true. Like sponges and some animals. I forget, I'm not an evolutionary biologist, but I remember learning that there's a whole category of animals with the mouth and anus on one side, and then the other is reversed. And we are from one category. But early on, they only had one opening, so you had to, and there's still, animals like that. So what I'm saying is not so crazy. This monk talking about defecating in the mouth. My goodness. Okay, so solidity. And so that quality of the still water, it helps us to reflect things as they are. So reflection is a quality of health. And the last pebble, does anyone remember? Is space, yeah. And that's freedom. And Thai like to, we could talk about space like the open sky, right? One image I love that Thai always gave was the image of a flower arrangement. I'm a musician sometimes, and I also like to think about music in the same way. So a flower, these orchid and kind of yucca, they are each one given their proper space. If I just take them and I just bunch them all together and try to smash them, do you think it would be a very beautiful flower arrangement? So the same is true with our mental formations. Our tendency is to want to just push anger away or push our jealousy away. I am a mindfulness practitioner. I don't have any jealousy. You believe me, right? I am a mindfulness practitioner. I am calm. I have no anger. I'm telling you, I have no anger. Joking. So that's not, then we miss entirely the practice. So I really recommend a book called No Mud, No Lotus. Very deep. Last year I was in India, and one of the members of the Sangha in New Delhi, she told me every morning her mother, she's very devout, she would get up early in the morning and recite the verses from the Bhagavad Gita, which is very normal. But she said, I don't know what happened. I gave her the book of Thai, No Mud, No Lotus. Now every morning she gets up early in the morning and she recites No Mud, No Lotus. I said, wow, No Mud, No Lotus is replacing the Bhagavad Gita. That's very, very impressive. But it's very deep, this teaching, right? So the garbage, you can transform it. This insight. So the story, Tai often asks us, can you grow a lotus on marble? Marble is so beautiful. All of us, we pay a lot of money to have marble floors. You go into banks and they want to give this delusionary perception that they are very stable. You can give them your money, so they make everything out of marble, right? So it feels very solid, yeah? But actually, you cannot grow lotuses on marble. Beautiful lotus flower. You can only grow lotus flowers in the mud. Putrid, stinking, yucky mud in the bottom of a pond. And when we need to clean out the old lotuses in like Lower Hamlet of Plum Village, we have to put on the big boots and walk in smelly mud, and it's like you get stuck and you can't get your foot out to pull out the lotuses. But that mud is the best compost for growing lotuses. And so that's the insight of interbeing in our own emotions. That's the insight of how to bring harmony to our 5 skandhas: form, feelings, perceptions, and so forth. So we start to see that when there is a moment when anger manifests in us, that is an opportunity. It's not something to push away or to try to avoid. But if we know how to make it into a wholesome source of nutriment, it can be the mud that grows our happiness and joy. That is a very, very deep insight. Because it seems like joy is as far as possible from anger, as you could imagine. Right? And so in our mind, we create this dualism, like joy, anger, or anger, peace. But when we look deeply into anger, we see that peace is there, if we only know how to transform it. And that energy of transformation is what we call mindfulness. It's kind of light, kind of like we talk about it shining on our emotions. So that same energy that we have cultivated, aware of our breathing, aware of our step, aware of the food that we eat, not getting lost in our thinking. So that mindfulness over time becomes what we call concentration. So if we maintain our mindfulness over time, so we keep our awareness on our breath, that is concentration. And with concentration, we get insight. We get the insight that joy is in my anger. That if I'm not careful about how I take care of my happiness, it can become jealousy. For example, you may, when you were a kid, you win a prize, or the teacher praises you when you write a good essay, and you feel so proud and happy and joyful. But then a few weeks later, they praise another student, not you. Do you feel the same happiness? Right. If you're like me, you feel like, why didn't she praise me? Why did she praise him? And you have another mental formation called jealousy. And you suffer. So if we don't know how to take care of our positive mental formations like happiness, they can become painful mental formations like jealousy. So we have to recognize this interbeing nature of our emotions, that every emotion has the right to space in our stored consciousness. But we don't want anxiety or fear or jealousy to drive us. So in the teaching of Buddhist psychology, we talk about 4 kinds of nutriment. That give rise to our experience of the present moment and the future. So there's edible food, of course. Without edible food, this body could not be as it is now. So from the nutriment from our mother in the womb, through the umbilical cord, through the good conditions of in the placenta, our body is able to grow in the womb of our mother. And eventually we are born. Actually, we say we're born, but actually we're just continuing. And we start to eat food, or we suckle on the breast of our mother, and eventually eating edible food. And so this body grows. I don't think anyone here is going to argue with that point. I'm not making a controversial statement. So it's very clear that the body is nourished by edible food. And if we remove that edible food, we know that there's not enough conditions for the body to continue. That eventually our body will start to lose its muscle tone, it will start to consume itself. Right? We're able to go a long time without edible food, but our body itself becomes the food to nourish the essential elements of our body. And that eventually we will waste away without any other sustenance. So the Buddha used that teaching on edible food to help us to understand the nature of causes and conditions. So interbeing is another way to say that everything arises due to causes and conditions. And nothing comes about due to one cause. That's a kind of corollary. And I say that because usually many of our wrong perceptions are based in the idea that something happens because of one cause. That's why we blame people, right? Like, that guy is president, so it's all his fault. All the suffering is because of him. Right? So easy, right? So simple. So we just get rid of him, and then we're happy. Right? No, and so as healthcare practitioners and healthcare workers, people who are offering health to others, we know this is true. We know that it's not because of just one cause. There's no one reason why anyone becomes ill. But there are many factors, many causes and conditions, and that includes adverse childhood experiences. That includes our ancestors. That includes our teachers, our parents. So in the 5 mindfulness trainings transmission ceremony, when we join our palms and touch the earth in gratitude to our parents who give us this life, we bow deeply to the 3 jewels and the 10 directions, in gratitude to all teachers, in gratitude to our friends, in gratitude to all living beings. That is to help us to overcome our block of suffering that may be there in relationship to our parents. When we touch the earth like that, with gratitude to our parents, just as we will do very shortly in the rose ceremony, which is happening in just a few minutes, we'll just touch the deep gratitude for our mother, for our father. Because even if we have a difficult relationship with our mother and our father, or both, we know at least that our mother gave birth to us, carried us in her womb. At least our mother hopefully held us, fed us, maybe our father too. And by getting in touch with that basic compassion of the mother, of our own mother, we can overcome our difficulty. We can see that that suffering, even though it seems overwhelming, that these years and years of misunderstanding between ourselves and our mother, deep down there is a love. All that suffering is because there is a deep love. Actually, we suffer most with those we love the most, right? If somebody, we don't know them and they do something cruel or mean, we might suffer for a few moments. But those who we love most deeply, when we suffer, when we think of them and we suffer, it means that there's a deep, abiding love under there. So that is why, like Taifuk Koi said yesterday, we try to feed ourselves with another kind of nutriment. A nutriment like love, loving kindness. A nutriment like compassion. A nutriment that has no limit. We call it immeasurable. We can never reach the end of love. We can never reach the end of compassion. Tai used to say about mindfulness, how can we ever have too much mindfulness? Tai said, I cannot see it's possible. There's too much mindfulness. We can always have more mindfulness. There's always plenty of space for more mindfulness to come into our consciousness. And the same is true for love, for compassion, joy. You can always have more joy. It's limitless joy. And the last is inclusiveness, the capacity to live without boundaries. We do not exclude anyone from the sphere of our love and our compassion. That is how we get true understanding. To the extent at which we draw a line, that is the limit, then as well of our understanding. So if we want to have true and deep understanding, I've learned I have to open the boundaries and love even those who seem, can you hear me? Yeah. Even those who seem to want to cause us so much harm. So there's edible food, and we understand how edible food gives rise to our form. The second nutriment is sense impressions. So we are bombarded by sense impressions from our eyes, our ears, our nose, tongue, our body, and those, and as well as our mind. And those sense impressions give rise to feeling. And because when we have a pleasurable sensation, we want more of it, then we expose ourselves to more of that sense impression. That's why we binge watch Netflix, for example. Honestly, I have not binge watched on Netflix. But I heard about it. I'm serious. We don't even have Netflix, so I don't. But that sense impression, right? It's just coming in through our eyes and our ears, right? And it's touching the seeds of emotions in our consciousness. So we are living a kind of narrative that is being told through the medium of visual and sound consciousness. And we don't want it to end. We want it to hold on to it. It gives us pleasurable feelings. So we click the button again, the next episode, because we don't want it ever to end. And then when it does, we feel depleted. So that's the nature of this kind of dopamine addiction. And so whether we're doom scrolling on social media or the brothers and sisters, we did a skit at the holiday retreat called the Matrix. And instead of, you know the Matrix? Yeah. But instead of like taking a blue or a red pill, we had a blue and a red mat, like a yoga mat. And you sit on the yoga mat, and then you go into the Matrix. And when what was his name? Keanu wakes up, he sees we had all the young people, all the wake-uppers lying on their backs with the phones going like this. Instead of, unplugging from something, they're just spending all their time on their backs. One of our members of our community was one of the original designers of the iPhone. So Steve Jobs took him and his colleagues and hid them in a house somewhere in Northern California for many months. And he said many divorces resulted from that. That project. And so they thought they were going to change the world, change the nature of communications, allow people to be more human everywhere they go. And then he described this experience in, I think, around 2010, 2011, when he went into a cafe and he saw families, friends, all sitting around a table, all, instead of talking to each other, looking at their phones. And this sense of despair that touched him, knowing that he had contributed, that he had put his life energy into creating this situation, under the delusion that people will be able to communicate better via a phone, a smartphone. So what's happening in our brain, it seems to be quite similar, whether it's binge watching Netflix or flipping down through our phone. Or my personal one is reading the news. So I somehow I feel I want to check the New York Times every day. I have that habit since I was in college. I had a high school teacher who told me, like, you should read the newspaper every day. So I've been following his advice. But I learned that my happiness actually is affected by that. If I don't know how to take care of what I'm reading with my mindfulness. So this teaching on the 4 nutriments, if we bring mindfulness to our experience of sense impressions, then we know better where to put our attention. We have what's called appropriate attention and inappropriate attention. And so the Buddha suggested we cultivate what's called appropriate attention. Yoniso manaskara. I won't write the Sanskrit, we don't have time. But it means skillfully. It means yona is to harness, like yoga, to harness our mind. We don't let our attention just be brought away by the YouTube algorithm. Let alone the YouTube algorithm, our own addictive tendencies. We have a kind of addiction to our own suffering. If you look carefully, some people, they really don't want to let go of their suffering. A retreat, why do I have to go on a mindfulness retreat? That's for people who suffer. Me, I don't suffer. But I'm not sure. Ask yourself, look deeply. What kind of block is there? That whatever you do in repetition, that is your addiction. So that practice of just sitting meditation with the community every morning, that helps us to let go. You have to sit there just with your breathing and find happiness. You can't go open the refrigerator and see what's inside. My happiness. Is this my happiness? Is this my happiness? But even in sitting meditation, you can do the same thing with your consciousness. You open the door of your consciousness, say, oh, what's inside there? What's in the fridge? Let me pull up, oh, that's a cool memory. Yeah. Everything was awesome back then. Yeah, that's really nice. Wow. Let's just think about that. Forget about mindful breathing. I'm just going to just think about that memory. Wow. That's really... Oh, sorry. Am I giving a Dharma talk? You see, that's the nature of our consciousness. So we actually become distracted by nature and distractible by nature. And so then we are prey to all of these sense impressions, the advertising, the news, and so forth. And that's important because there's a third kind of nutriment we call volition. And this is a very, very important nutriment because it's driving the force of our life. If we have a good volition, like we do as healthcare workers, there's some part of us that wants to help. It wants to reduce the harm and the suffering in the world. And that volition, although it may manifest in ways that do cause harm, at least it's going in the direction of helping. But the more that we become addicted to our sense impressions, our volition can become warped. And before we know it, we are spending most of our daily life just seeking out sense pleasures and not getting enough, because there's never enough. Unlike this wholesome foods like love, loving kindness, compassion, joy, inclusiveness, sense pleasures, they are quite limited. You feel them for a short time and then they go away. I mean, there's the experience of sex, for example, which is we experience on many, many sense levels. And so it's very, very powerful, but it's also very brief. And if we're not careful, then sex can drive the whole current of our life. And we are just looking for that experience over and over and over again. And when we don't get it in a relationship, then we look for it in food or some other similar whole sense experience. And then our volition is fed by repeated experiences of these sense impressions. So that's why we are invited to look deeply into our lives and see what kind of volition, what is our deepest aspiration? What are we really here for? That's why I asked the question, what is true health? I'm not here to answer it. I mean, we gave some answers. But I want you to just keep that question in your heart. Don't ever assume, even if we are healthcare workers, that you know what is true health. And that will keep your volition alive, to keep on the path of helping people to suffer less and helping yourselves to suffer less. Nourishing this deep aspiration, volition. And the last nutriment, before I finish, is consciousness. So our consciousness is a kind of nutriment. And the image the Buddha used for consciousness is of a thief who has been caught by the king. And the king has ordered him to be pierced by hundreds of spears, day and night. The Buddha said that is like consciousness. We are inundated with thoughts, ideas, images, traumatic experiences that we feel in the body, and they are like spears piercing us night and day. And so if we don't have a practice, if we don't know how to nourish our volition to practice mindfulness, for example, then we can easily get overwhelmed by all of these piercings, all of these ideas, these thoughts. So what I do in my practice is always come back to the breath, always come back to my body, learn how to calm my thinking, find ways to study the Dharma. If you have the habit of using a computer, use a computer to study Thay's teaching. That's what I do. I have the habit of using the computer, so I work on Thay's books. And that way I skillfully learn how to make good use of a skill in order to bring myself back to the Dhamma, to this practice. So there's ways of taking care of our consciousness with mindfulness so that we're able to heal the wounds that are caused by all of these piercings that we are receiving day in and day out. I find it a very, very apt metaphor for all of the possible distractions that are assailing us in every moment. And sometimes when you follow one of those ideas, you end up making somebody suffer because you hold on to it. Like, I want to hold on to that spear. I don't want it to come out. And the Buddha actually talked about that. He said, some of us, it's like we have the pointed tip of a dagger in our heart. And it has been lodged there for many, many years. And because we don't have the mindfulness, we don't know how to take it out. And so every interaction, we have this pain, this suffering. And our irritation, our anger, is just a baby crying out for love, for attention, for healing. So the most important thing I find in this practice is that we learn how to regain our sovereignty. Because I cannot remove that dagger for you. The Buddha cannot remove that dagger. Only mindfulness, our own practice. Each one of us taking care of ourselves. That's the theme of this retreat, to bring it to a close. Taking care of ourselves, we take care of others. Nourishing ourselves, we are able to nourish others. Understanding the causes and conditions that give rise to our own suffering is the key to true health and offering it to others. So thank you for coming here. Thank you for your beautiful presence and practice. I wish you much balance, harmony, and solidity on your path. And please see Magnolia Grove as your home. We are here for you. This is a source of good nutriment, positive, nourishing, healing elements. And we have Plum Village centers all around the world. We have Deer Park, we have Blue Cliff. Wherever you are, you can find us. And now you can find us online. We cannot guarantee such a good environment when you join us online, but we're grateful that all of you do have joined us for the retreat. Maybe we can offer flowers for all of those online who joined us from home. Thank you for creating good healing conditions in your own house. Maybe we'll finish with 3 sounds of the bell, and then we'll have a short closing and finish the retreat. And so we'll have the rose ceremony, which is a beautiful meditation offered by our teacher that became a very popular ceremony in Vietnam to offer our gratitude to our parents, whether they are still living or they have passed on. And so we encourage everyone, if you can, to stay and join us for that. Many of us, our friends, have come from outside as well to join it. It's a very touching ceremony, and it's very healing, especially if we still see there's some block of pain in our relationship to our mother or our father. So thank you. We'll finish with 3 sounds of the bell. So we invite all of the organizing team, all of the monastics, and all of our OI friends to come up to the